Steve King, Republican from Iowa, is digesting it himself. And, sir, good morning to you.
Oh, good morning. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. Your initial reaction to this is what? You've been one of the leading proponents of cracking down on illegal immigration. Is this a setback or not, sir?
Well, I think, first of all, the most important component was upheld, and that's the reasonable suspicion component, which you've spoken, I think, very well this morning on. The balance of these provisions, as I try to digest this, really says that the Supreme Court has expanded the constitutional directive that Congress is in control of and uniform naturalization policy. This goes beyond naturalization. Immigration is not naturalization, but I believe this Supreme Court decision will broaden the definition, the constitutional definition of naturalization to include more immigration. That means that we're congressionally going to have to authorize the states to be able to support the federal government in enforcing immigration law. You just cannot have layers of government deciding I'm not going to enforce this law or that law or prohibit them from doing so. So this adds a preemption to the states that I think also bodes ill for some of the other immigration enforcement that
needs to happen in the country. I wonder if anything was settled in the end. What Shannon Bream explained to us and Judge Anna Napolitano did as well, there could be a challenge to the provision that upholds by noon today. Coming out of Arizona, that would take it back to the courts and perhaps freeze any action at all on the provision that stands. And if that's the case, what has been decided, if anything?
Well, that's true. I mean, not having read the decision, and no one really had a chance to study it yet, I don't know about all the implications, but remanding it back to the Ninth Circuit, that always makes me nervous. I'd like to know the specific directions that are there, and what is left. We may be starting, in a way, all over again, but preserving, or at least implying that we're going to preserve Section 2B that allows a reasonable suspicion. That is important, and I think that will give some of the states more confidence to go forward with their own reasonable suspicion laws. It's other states that have been essentially holding and waiting back for Supreme Court decisions.
All right, Jan Brewer is the governor of Arizona. She's been in the crosshairs of this bill from the very beginning. She just came out with a statement. Today's decision by the U.S. Supreme Court is a victory for the rule of law. It is also a victory for the 10th Amendment, all Americans who believe in the inherent right and responsibility of states to defend their citizens. After more than 2 years of legal challenges, the heart of Senate Bill 1070 can now be implemented in accordance with the U.S. Constitution. You agree with that statement, sir?
You know, it sounds, it's more optimistic than I am, obviously, but I think she makes an essential point, and it's the one that I also made. The most important component is at least supported by this decision of the Supreme Court, even though it's remanded back to the Ninth with those instructions. So I'm glad there's that level of optimism. I certainly support that. And I want to give the states more authority than is going to remain in the aftermath of this decision than they would have on a quick read of this decision we've seen today, Bill.
Yeah, she says that she's grateful for a legal victory in her statement. And then she goes on in the fourth of 4 paragraphs. Of course, today's ruling not mark the end of our journey. It can be expected that legal challenges to SB 1070, the state of Arizona, will continue. I take it from your answer, you agree with that also?
Well, I do, Bill, and I think there's something else to think about here. The administration, or the Obama administration, has manufactured a new legal argument called the careful balance theory. That's in their brief. It's in their case, and that covers these 3 sections that have been struck down. In other words, they have said that if a state decides to pass or enforce a law that unbalances the president's idea of the balance between the foreign relations under the Secretary of State, Homeland Security, Department of Commerce, you name any cabinet position that's there, that the states should not be interfering with that. Congress gave no careful balance directive to the executive branch. This is another case of the president refusing to uphold his oath of office, which is to take care that the laws be faithfully enforced. And that is part of this discussion here today, too, that I think needs to be threaded into the dialogue going forward.
Steve King, thank you for your time. Congressman, Republican out of Iowa, thank you, sir. If the officer reasonably suspects the person is in the United States illegally, that's the key provision in Section 2B that has not been thrown out by the Supreme Court today.